Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Lucy and Tim show. So we have a confession. We were supposed to have a special guest today, but our special guest double booked themselves. So we got bumped. We've been stood up, which is actually the second time that's happened to me this week. Because yesterday, nobody turned up for a training course I was going to deliver. Hey, so, at least Lucy didn't stand me up this evening. So, Lucy, how's things?
Good. I could never stand you up, Tim.
You almost said like that, like you meant it then. You sounded sincere then.
It's because I was. That came from my heart.
I compose myself. So we're going to talk, and we had to make this up about a day ago. But we need to talk about something. So I suggested we talk about. And I don't want to say it now because we just had a little chat, and Lucy said it shouldn't be called what I want to call it. So
I didn't say it shouldn't. I said I didn't like the fact that it was called, and I think we could call it something else.
So I'm going to say the word now, and then you can tell me what you think it should be called, okay? But I'm going to say the word that everybody recognizes. So we're going to talk about supervisions this evening, today. And you can see from Lucy's face that she's going, so Lucy, why don't you think it should be called that?
I think for me, it's the connotation around the word, and it's more about the management, the supervising of the person, rather than it being an opportunity for that person to grow, develop knowledge, be inspired. To me, it's a less positive word.
So you're saying calling it a supervision is negative and scary?
I think it could be perceived that way for
Okay.
some people.
So what would you call it? Because you can't say it shouldn't be called that if you're not going to think of a suggestion. What would you call it?
Well, it could be something more like a support and guidance session or a development session.
Support and guidance. That sounds a bit ominous.
It sounds a bit it sounds a bit fluffy. Maybe a development session.
But if you add the word professional development session, then that sounds a bit.
It does.
On one hand, that sounds really professional, but it also sounds a little bit scary for some people.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be, supervision doesn't necessarily have to be all about professional stuff. It could be chatting to the person about how they're doing as a person.
Well, I've written something down
Oh,
on my pad in my preparation. We do prepare for this, It doesn't seem like
you're very good at preparing for this.
You prepare as well, don't you?
Mentally.
Okay. Yeah, I prepare mentally and on a pad in about the 3 minutes before we open the Zoom meeting to record it.
Yeah.
I'll save that for a little bit. But in your professional career, Lucy, I guess you've had supervision sessions done to you.
That's the point. Done to you.
I checked those words on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So have you had supervisions done to you?
Yes, and very few.
And were they uplifting, creative, constructive?
No.
What
They
made
were a tick box exercise because they hadn't done them in a while.
Okay, so it was a bit of a rush to get it done because there was a missing date on the matrix?
Yes.
I got another question. Did they have a silly form?
They did have a silly form.
Why do you all have silly forms?
But sometimes it was just a random conversation where the other person emailed me a few days later with their recollection of a conversation from their point of view.
Was it similar to your recollection?
No, funnily enough, because we're two different people.
So what do you think about the form?
I think it enables the tick box process.
So, when I was a care provider, we did have a silly form. But gradually, the number of sections on the silly form got fewer and fewer and fewer. And we ended up with one section, which just said record of conversation. And it usually ended up being written on the blank back page as well. Now, I think whatever we call it, and I don't think we're going to retitle it in this episode. I don't think we could agree. But, you know, maybe our subscriber could give us suggestions about what they think it should be called. Lucy, did I tell you? I spoke to one of our subscribers and fans yesterday.
Did you?
I did indeed.
Did they give us feedback?
They said we are both informative, thought-provoking, and funny.
Wow.
And that only cost me 10 quid to get that feedback.
I'm impressed.
I know. So I spoke to a real person.
Was it one of those dodgy banknotes you gave them?
What, the ones you make on the photocopier? You can't do that, by the way. I've tried that. Have you tried that?
No.
If you try to scan money with your scanner or your printer, it won't do it. You can't photocopy money.
Well, those dodgy plastic notes, they'd be a bit too kind of slippy anyway.
Or the ones that... Do we have money now? Do we still have money?
Do you know, I actually do. Somebody gave me cash yesterday, and I've seen money today. My dad opened his wallet and I ducked because of the moths. And he produced a £10 note.
That's a brown one, isn't it?
I think so, a browny orangey one. Yeah.
I used to play quite an amusing but quite cruel game when I paid with money in the shop.
Okay.
I used to play a game in my head and I'd call it right money. And when there was a young person on the checkout, I would give them the exact right amount of money for the thing I was going to purchase. And it sort of discombobulates them a little bit because you've given them the right amount of money. Because they're used to you paying with a card or giving a note. They put the note into the till, it tells them what change to give. So I give them the right money, then I ask for my change.
That's just mean.
I know, I have a laugh, don't I?
So hang on a minute. My brain's giving me a connection here. I'm going to do a lateral chunk. And I'm going to go from you giving them right amount of money to one of the things that he's done in a supervision where people use them as opportunities to give instruction.
This is true. I'm amazed that you made that lateral shift though.
Why? I am an NLP trainer and lateral chunking is something I am a professional at.
Did you learn how to do that?
Lateral chunking, yeah.
So you had lateral chunking lessons.
You actually have to, it's really cool. You do it with, you get taught how to do it and then you have to do it in threes.
Okay.
Have somebody sitting down with somebody opposite them and they come up with a conversation, but the person stood behind them is directing you. So if you want to go up in chunking, they're stood there going like this. And if they want to go down, they go like this. And if you want to lateral, you have to go like that. And then you have to give another word or another thing that's either bigger picture in the detail or a lateral chunk based on the other person's direction. And then you have to do it quickly.
What have bananas got to do with that?
Lateral chunking.
Yeah.
Bananas have got something to do with that because supervisions are very important. Because if you have a banana in your fruit bowl, and we now know that bananas in your fruit bowl give off a chemical that damages your fruit.
Isn't it ethylene?
It could be. So if you've got a banana in your fruit bowl that's not particularly sitting very well with the rest of the team, a supervision might be a useful tool.
It's a bit like a bad banana.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that a supervision and a banana has the lateral chunk, that you have to peel a banana to get to the good bits. And when you do a supervision, you need to peel, well, you haven't literally got to peel the person, but you've got to peel away the layers. But some people takes quite a bit of getting at the good stuff, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that's partly because of, again, it goes back to the word supervision. It's that perception around it. So it's like, oh, I've got to go and sit in front of the headmistress.
I've got supervision I did once on one of my care staff team. So she came into the room and she threw herself onto the table, just the top half of her body, not all of her body, and slumped like this.
Okay.
And she said, right, what do you want to talk about this time? But she was in this position. But you know what I did? I got up and walked out.
Okay.
And I left her there.
Okay.
And I looked through
Can
the
I check
window.
her pulse first?
No, she was definitely breathing.
Oh, okay.
And I waited and looked like through the window till she sat up. Then I went back in and carried on as if nothing had happened.
Her mindset wasn't in the place for the supervision, was it?
Her body wasn't in the right place for the supervision. Her body was like,
Get to the desk.
well, she threw herself at me, figuratively speaking.
I think you said she threw herself at the desk.
But I think, yeah, I'm quite glad she threw herself at the desk, actually.
But she wasn't in the right frame of mind for the supervision, was she?
No, she wasn't in the right frame of mind, actually, to be employed by me either. So eventually I wrote her a lovely reference and she left.
So is that why she was in for the supervision?
I donated her to the local authority.
Did you? That's very generous of you.
Yes, I wrote in a reference. She has very high standards and she always seeks to impose them on her colleagues. And somebody in the local authority thought that was a good thing.
Very good. Very good. So come on, talk to me more about supervision. So tell me, what are the positive benefits
I
of
think
a supervision?
it's the manager's most important tool in their armory. And I think the most important question you can ask in any supervision starts with the words, tell me about. Now, I can suffix that with many things. I think it's suffix. My grammar right? Prefix goes in front, suffix goes on the end. I'm definitely looking at Lucy to hope she nods.
I don't know where you're going with this, so I'm just sitting here.
So tell me about, and my favourite question always used to be, tell me about your last day in work. They go, what do you mean? So talk me through it. And as they would tell me, I can use a strange phrase now. I would listen between the lines, which sounds...
Oh.
You like that, don't you?
No.
So I'd listen to what they said.
You didn't.
I'd listen to what they didn't say.
Okay.
So they would tell me that, oh, they came into work and they hung their coat up and they checked the handover book. And I'm like, did you go and talk, say hello to the people we look after?
Okay.
Go say hello to your colleagues? Or I might say, and if they'd done training, it was a fantastic question. So I would say, tell me about that mental capacity training that you did last week. But don't tell me what you learned and don't tell me what you thought of it. Tell me about how you put it into practice. And tell me about the impact of putting it into practice on the lives of the people we support. Tell me about how it made you feel to see that it had an impact. I wouldn't ask all of these questions in one go. I'd let them answer in between.
Okay.
And I used to find that
I'm starting to feel overwhelmed with questions.
I'd let them answer in between.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
But you're not going to answer because you don't know the answers, do you? Because you don't work for me.
I just don't know the answers, Tim.
And you didn't do mental capacity act training last week.
No, I didn't. Thank goodness.
Why didn't you turn up on the training last week, Lucy?
Because I didn't get the link and I didn't know.
I think it's the manager's most important tool. If you ask open, constructive questions. The trouble is, as you've said, it's tick box exercise.
It is.
And most of them are just completely and utterly boring. I think you've got to be different.
So, what if, just try this on for a minute. What if we were to sit there instead of saying, tell me about X? What if we were to say, what would you like to talk about today?
That's a very good question. And I've done that on a number of occasions, but with specific people.
Okay.
Because I think as well, you need to, when you plan the session, plan the session, you need to think about the individual. And I've had colleagues that would think about the session in advance and they would come with a list. So I would say exactly what you've said, except I wouldn't say, what would you want to talk about? I just go, what's on your list? And they have lists and it's fine because that's great, because I think when you conduct a session, you should be speaking about 20% of the time. And they should be speaking about 80%. And if they come with a list, your job is done. All you've got to do is guide them.
So, what should you be doing for the 80% of the time when they're talking and you're not?
Listening.
Ah, now that's interesting, isn't it? So, how specifically should we be listening?
Well, we should be listening to what they say, listening to what they don't say, comparing what they say to good practice and standards and regulations. But what we shouldn't be doing is the human nature thing, which is thinking about what you're going to say next.
Hold that thought.